Go right ahead.
Ned, why don't we start and we'll see how this goes.
That's fine.
Okay, so we're going to call to order this hearing of the Board of Appeals on the 25th of February, 2021 at 7 p.m. This is the application of Owen Barry of 572 Holland Street in Milton. It's dated November 12, 2020, and the application seeks a special permit in order to construct an in-law apartment pursuant to Section 3A9 of the Milton zoning bylaws. The apartment is to be occupied by Mr. Barry's mother and father-in-law, Ruth and John Walsh. Mrs. Ruth Walsh is 78 years of age and is not in good health. And Mr. John Walsh is 84 years of age, and it's my understanding that he's confined to a wheelchair at the present time. We had an original hearing on this application on January 28, 2021, at which time the applicants, represented by Mr. Ned Corcoran, who's present with us this evening, presented the application. At the end of the hearing, we discussed taking a view of the premises and how that may help everyone better understand the premises and the nature and needs of the applicants. Indeed, on February 13, 2021, the board inspected the subject premises along with our building commissioner, Joe Prondak. And we want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Barry for their courtesy and hospitality during that view of the premises, which lasted about 40 minutes. It was very, very, very helpful. In the earlier session, the board received correspondence from 3 direct abutters to the subject property, Nicholas Petrocelli of 560 Howland Street, Catherine Sutpen, S-U-T-P-E-N, of 590 Howland Street, and Michael and Virginia McDonough. There was one letter that was submitted by Webster Collins of 533 Howland Street objecting to the application. On February 17th, after the view of the premises, Attorney Corcoran filed with the board an application to amend, or a motion rather, to amend the plans and the application. And with that motion was a letter explaining in detail the suggested changes. There were a series of drawings of the proposed new premises dated February 17th, 2021 by GPH Designers and Architects of Milton, Massachusetts. They're at 27 California Avenue in Milton. They describe all aspects of the proposed amended application. There were photographs of the various portions of the premises that were included, and Mr. Corcoran's letter of February 17th describes in detail the specific portions of the application which he seeks to amend. It's my understanding that Mr. Corcoran believes that the materials supplied to the board make the application, the present amended application, compliant with the Board of Appeals bylaw. So the first order of business before us here is the Mr. Corcoran's motion to amend the application. So Mr. Corcoran, welcome back to the Board of Appeals. It's good to see you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Brown, Mr. Gray, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to be back in front of you. I appreciate the indulgence that the board granted me and my clients relative to the opportunity to take a view and the opportunity to amend the application. I think, at the time we originally filed, and we were preparing to file a year ago, the photographs, two of the photographs are from exterior of the garage before the handicap ramp was installed. I took those a year ago because we were preparing to file, and then COVID hit, and so nothing happened for a while. But really, we're focusing on the fact that the original dwelling was the historic caretaker cottage to the Forbes estate, a small dwelling relative to other dwellings in the area. And obviously, the Barrys expanded significantly with a newer, modern, larger home connected to it. And we really were focused on how to make that dwelling work under the temporary apartment bylaw. And it was clear there were some issues and concerns. The scale is well beyond the 800 square feet that's generally allowed under the bylaw. And so we appreciate the board's indulgence in allowing us to amend to bring the application within the four corners of the bylaw provisions itself. You'll note that in particular, we've limited the area that would be occupied to the first floor of the dwelling, but have cut off and would wall off the dining room portion of the first floor. It's an area that's really sort of it's clearly not needed for the purposes of the in-law apartment, but it's easy to wall off. And so that would, by eliminating that, we reduce the square footage of that first floor area to a total of 772 square feet. And then in the post perspective, once the need for the apartment is no longer necessary for reasons associated with the various things that can happen under the bylaw, either the Walshes are no longer here, property is sold, whatever. The plan would be to remove the kitchen facilities and then incorporate the dining room and the kitchen into a larger family style room. And we think that can be done fairly easily. I did include photographs and images from the listing at the time that the Barrys were purchasing the property, in particular to show relative to the condition of the kitchen. The last two photographs show a view of the kitchen and from the kitchen into the dining room. I took those two photographs at the View 2 weeks ago, and you can see that that the kitchen facilities are really substantially the same. I think one of the concerns that Mr. Prondak had earlier was whether or not the kitchen was substantially modified by the Barrys once they moved in. But I think the question was asked. He asked the question. It was answered during the site walk. That during the View that work had been done previously, and I think Joe recognized that it may have been done by the former owner at the time when they done it. But it was clear that it from our understanding, and I think the Barrys made clear that day that they hadn't done any substantial work to the kitchen other than what was there. So with that, again, we appreciate the time that the board took on a Saturday morning to come out and view the premises. I think those are always helpful. It's hard to describe things even in photographs, but when you see things live, it really makes a big difference. And I think each time that the board takes an opportunity to view, it does make a difference. And so we appreciate the board's time on that. Appreciate the board agreeing to a second evening of hearing. And I would, at that point, I would open it up to the board for questions, concerns, and do my best to answer them on behalf of the Barrys. And I do see that they have joined us, so they're here.
Okay, that's good to hear. If you have nothing further to add, Mr. Corcoran, on the motion to amend, let me ask Mr. Brown whether you have any questions of Mr. Corcoran on the motion to amend the application.
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Gray, do you have any questions of Mr. Corcoran, on the motion to amend?
No, I don't either.
Okay, great. I don't have any further questions. So on the matter of the motion to amend, all those in favor, well, let me do this just to be sure, because the way the system is set up here, I can't tell whether there are any interested persons present. So let me just ask, is there any other person present at this hearing who wishes to speak regarding Mr. Corcoran's motion to amend the complaint as he's just described it? Okay, and so there's no such person present. And that being the case, is it, Bev, is that all right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, all set.
Then the motion is before us. So all those in favor of allowing the motion to amend as proposed by Mr. Corcoran, please say aye.
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 Aye. So it's a unanimous vote, 3-0. So Mr. Corcoran, the application is now amended. We thank you for your efforts in getting that done. I think it was a very productive and important part of the hearing. Let me ask you, on the amended application, Mr. Corcoran, do you want to be further heard, or do you have anything else you want to add on the amended application?
No, I think I said it pretty well as I can. I think I did provide a table of permit compliance attached to my letter that identified the specific areas, I think, within the bylaw itself, and demonstrating how the permit would comply. Obviously, the primary owners are Owen and Elizabeth Barry. The occupants to the temporary apartment would be Lisa's parents, John and Ruth Walsh. And I lay out the design, the permit design, and the size of the lot. I know one of the questions is the scale of the lot. The lot itself is 2.8 acres. The building is set, the premise, the house and the premise is set well back from Harlan Street, well buffered on all sides from other abutters. And I think therefore it fits squarely within the requirements of the permit process, given the fact that we're requesting to be an area that's less than the 800 square foot maximum allowable under the bylaw.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Corcoran. Let me ask Mr. Gray on the merits of the amended application. Do you have any questions to ask Mr. Corcoran?
No, I don't, other than just to state that I think that I appreciate the work that you've put into this in coming up with some of the most detailed plans I've seen for, both for the design of the in-law apartment and incorporating it back into the structure after it's over. I'm grateful for the willingness of the applicants to fit their in-law apartment needs within the very narrow strictures of the bylaw without needing a variance. I find that extremely helpful. So I'm grateful. Thank you to you all.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gray. Let me ask Mr. Brown, do you have any questions of Attorney Corcoran on the merits of the amended application?
I don't have any questions, and Mr. Gray took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say the same exact thing. So thank you very much. I don't have any questions.
Okay, great. Let me ask, are there any interested persons present this evening who wish to ask Attorney Corcoran any questions on the merits of the application as now amended? Okay, and there's no such person present. Let me ask if Mr. Prondak is present tonight. I can't tell, Mr. Prondak. Are you around there? Okay, Bev, do you see Mr. Prondak?
You're muted, Joe.
He's muted, but he's on.
Okay. Can you help Mr. Prondak?
I can't. He has to. Something's wrong. Joe, unmute. There you go.
There it is. Okay. Took a while to find that.
Welcome to the Board of Appeals, Mr. Prondak. It's good to see you back.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Do you have any questions of Mr. Corcoran?
No, my only comment would be in the Waldorf dining room. We would, under the building code, expect to see an access panel in there. We may need to have an independent smoke detector in that separate area now. That's really it. But the plan as presented does now currently meet the bylaw.
Okay, great. Do you have any other comments or suggestions you want to make?
If the permit were granted, I just would like to make it clear that the kitchen facilities would need to be removed on expiration or termination of the permit.
Okay, and I think that was actually discussed at the time of the view of the premises.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well,
That's clearly understood.
Thank you for your comments, and we appreciate your presence, Mr. Prondak. Let me ask, for the sake of the record, is there any person present at this hearing virtually who wishes to speak in support of this application for a temporary in-law apartment? And the record indicates there is no such person present. Is there anybody present virtually who wishes to speak in opposition to this application for an in-law apartment? And there's no such person present. So unless you have any final words of wisdom, Mr. Corcoran?
I don't.
Okay, then
Thank you.
Okay, then we're going to adjourn the evidence portion of this hearing and discuss the amended application and vote on the application here and now. So, Mr. Michael Brown, do you want to be heard first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any significant comments. I just would like to say again that the bylaw provision that's applicable here is very strict, and I want to thank you for bringing your plans and your application within the confines of that provision. I think it's the right choice. I mean, here we are with a house that you were required to keep where it is next to your development, and it would make sense to have your parents, in-laws living there, and so this is a common sense solution. And thank you for your work to get this within the provision.
Great, thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Gray, do you have any final words of wisdom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Mr. Brown. I think that this is an appropriate and sensitive solution that balances all of the various factors at play. It does, as Mr. Prondak has noted, comply with the scope. Certainly fits within the scope of the bylaw for this purpose. I would just further say that, that in my opinion, given the placement of this house, it's not really the addition, it's the original house to which a larger building was. It's at the back of the property, and it seems to me that it's, as you stated, Mr. Corcoran, it's well sheltered, and that any impact to neighboring properties or to the neighborhood in general would be extremely limited, if at all. And so, in light of the detailed plans and the obvious need and the compliance with the provisions of the bylaw, I would tend to support the application.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. My view is that I think that this application has merit. I want to congratulate Mr. Corcoran for his willingness and ability to work with the board and Mr. Prondak and the bylaw itself to make the initial application conform to the bylaw and avoid a lot of technical issues and difficulties. These in-law apartment matters, as Mike Brown indicated, we do strictly construe the bylaw in these matters. But that being said, they're really important from a family perspective, with elderly parents that are beloved by the owners and need and are willing to accept help from the owners and assistance and not be foisted off to some type of care facility or likewise, which in these very dark days of COVID is the last place you would want to put anybody under any circumstances. So I was very pleased with the amendment and the presentation by Mr. Corcoran, as well as the willingness of the Barrys to conform their application to the procedure, to the provisions of the bylaw. And I think this is an outcome that is in the best interest of everyone here, of certainly the applicants and certainly the parents and certainly Mrs. Barry and the neighbors. And it was a wonderful house that the Barrys have, and the in-law apartment, the way it's going to be rearranged, will not only comply with the bylaw, but they'll have the benefit of the Barry family. And I just think it's a win for everyone. So I'm pleased to endorse this application. So, and I want to really thank Mr. Prondak for coming to the view. I think his presence was very, very important, and his guidance is always very helpful to the board. And I want to thank him for his presence tonight to present his views. So without further ado, all those in favor of allowing this application for a special permit for an in-law apartment with the usual conditions, please say aye.
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 Well, congratulations, Mr. Corcoran. Another victory, but I think this is a victory for the Barrys and Mrs. Barry's parents as well. So it's kind of a happy event for all concerned. I'm sorry you had to go through 2 hearings, but I think in the end it certainly was worth it. So do you have anything further to add, Mr. Corcoran?
No, I don't. Other than say thank you very much on behalf of the Barrys and myself for the indulgence and time that this board took to get to a good outcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your comments and your hard work on the application. Let me ask my colleagues, do we have a volunteer to prepare this decision?
Sure, if you want, John.
There it is. That Mr. Gray. Thank you very much, Nick. We appreciate that. You write beautiful decisions, and I know you'll do your best to crank one out. I don't believe there's any further business to come before the board. Ms. Sutton, are you in agreement that there's nothing else coming before the board tonight?
This is it.
Okay, that's it. So I think I heard a motion to adjourn from Mr. Gray, seconded by Mr. Brown. So all those in favor of adjourning this evening's hearing, please say aye.
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 Well, thank you very much, everyone, and stay safe and stay warm. And thanks, Beverly, for setting this up. And
I'm glad it worked.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, and best wishes to your parents.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We're adjourned, and we'll be heading off to other endeavors.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.